Hey guys, I'm Naya and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over a bunch of deck lists because the first weekend in the new format with post Banlist, post Photon Hypernova took place a week back. So a lot of events happened. We had the Las Vegas YCS and we had a bunch of regionals taking place, even local tournaments in the last week or so. So I wanted to go over all of the deck lists I was able to acquire via Carlonce's store, which is an amazing resource for, if you're looking for deck lists online. And we're going to go over all of these deck lists and sort of figure out what the best decks are, what the techs are that the players are using, and all of that. Before we get started, I want to encourage you guys to check out my Patreon, which I added a new tier on there, so you might want to check that out. And if you want to help support the channel in other ways, you can also check out Dragon Shield products via my affiliate link in the description box below. So getting started with the deck list, because we have a lot to go over, and I'll try to not repeat myself when a lot of deck lists are going to be the same. This first deck list was the top 16 at YCS Las Vegas, and I like this deck list particularly because the players explain how basically all of these tech cards that you see here, the Book of Moon and Forbidden Chalice and Lance, are basically there to help protect your monsters for you to be able to resolve that one unicorn or something like that, which is extremely impactful. And they said that pretty much when this happens, you're able to win. And those cards are just protection. And I figured that's very interesting reasoning for those tech cards. And they still play Ash and Nibiru. So you have hand traps and you also have all of these cards to protect you. So there's no Book of Eclipse, for example. And we see Ibli in the side deck, which Ibli sees a ton of play in the Kashtira deck. And there's also Enemy Controller. And I like their tech cards in the extra deck when it comes to the two fusions. Baron as well is very cool. But basically the fusions and the Link, the Goliath, I almost forgot its name, are basically there to be able to act as like good materials for a Rise Heart when they're banished off of Prosperity, for example, and you take them under a Rise Heart and actually get their effect. So they're very useful in that regard as well. And moving on, we have another Kashtira deck list, which featured Lava Golem in the main deck. I think Lava Golem is an insane card moving forward. And also with tasking, you have different targets for it. There is a Dark Hole, there's Harpy's Feather Luster, there's Talons, also Prosperity. So impermanence as well, like you're able to have a bunch of targets in here. And I like that a lot. I think tasking is an extremely useful card right now. And there's also Pancratops in the side deck, which is interesting. There's Lancia as well. D-Shifter sees a ton of play in people's side decks, as you're going to be able to see in a bit. And Ibli, again, evenly a very useful card right now. And as for the Kashtira packages, it's interesting because some people play the Telements Kashtira, some players don't, some play Ogre, and some players don't. So it's pretty much personal preference at this point. And moving on to the Despia deck list, I like this one a lot when I saw it. So there's a ton of things going on. We have the Dark Magician to go into Dragoon. So Dragoon is seeing play in this deck, which I think that's awesome, by the way. Like Dragoon sort of flopped kind of hard in the TCG, and I like the fact that it's seeing play, even though it's kind of an annoying card to deal with. There's also the Fusion deployment in the main deck together with the two Cartesia, and there's the Neospatial Aqua Dolphin in the side deck together with its Fusion counterpart for you to be able to get to it and potentially get rid of an Ash that would be used on your branded fusion or something like that, which is extremely useful. And it just makes fusion deployment even better because now it has two potential targets and Albaz as well. But the Neospatial edition is really cool, I think. And also the ratio of Bestios, one Saronir, one Lubelion, I think that's cool as well because Bestios are just not as useful anymore. So why would you play them except for those two, Saronir being the best one and also Lubelion to work in tandem with it. Overall, I really like this list, and the Crossout Designator in the side deck, as you're going to be able to see a lot of Despia players play it, and even some Kashtira players. So in a meta like this, where there's a particular card that would hurt you, like Ash, like Book of Eclipse, stuff like that, you can also play it as a target and play Crossout. So I don't think Crossout is a bad tech card moving forward, and also when you're going to play a lot of mirror matches, it's going to come in handy as well. So I like the fact that we're seeing Crossout see play because it also kind of flopped. So there's that as well. And there's the Team YCS, again, Naturia Runic deck, which this one is pretty much what Naturia Runic has been, but it has all of these tech cards as well, evenly, and Book of Eclipse in the main deck, which I think is really cool. And there's Ash and a noticeably smaller Earth Fairy count in the Ishizu cards, but still, this deck just is kind of insane if a really good pilot plays it and just is able to amass so much resources. It's actually wild to go up against it when it really gets going. And I like it a lot. In the side deck, there's Dark Hole, which is very useful, a Bestial package. There's a time card as well, and there's Ghost Bell, which we saw in another side deck, so definitely a useful card moving forward. And also the Barrier, which a lot of people tend to complain about, which I understand, but it is going to see play a lot in almost every single deck list, actually. So then we have the top 4 Sword Soul deck, which is pretty much the standard Sword Soul deck. Like, there's nothing really special about it, except for the fact that it's Sword Soul in the meta again, which is really cool. So a Book of Lunar Eclipse in the side deck, for example, that's interesting. Also the Harpies, together with Talents in the main, Impermanence. Also Blackout for the targets for Thrust. Pot of Desires as well. Again, the Barrier in the side, and together with Rivalry, which we saw in the Sword Soul deck a lot. So just standard, but it's cool that it top 4'd a YCS. You know what I mean? So then we have the Labyrinth deck list, which made 2nd place. And it's interesting because going over some different Labyrinth deck lists, we also have, so the next one, I think it's pretty much the same. But then we have another one that made top 8 at the YCS, and it's just a tiny bit different if you compare the two. There's a different count in the Sky Prison monster. I don't really know what the correct name for it is, because I always mix up the OCG and then the TCG translation. So the Sky Prison monster, you know which one. And then one of the builds used only 1 Trap Trick, but they played 1 Ghost and 1 Rivalry, and also some of the Floodgates in the side deck. And the Punishment, the Dogmatic Punishment, together with the Punishment targets in the extra deck. However, the other build, the top 8 build, they actually played Bird Up extra deck, which I think is really cool. And they played no Punishment, but they did play evenly, for example, 3 Trap Trick, and also Eradicator in the side deck. So no other Floodgates except for Gozen, which the other player, I think they played Imperial Iron Wall, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, one of that. And the Field Spell, which also some people play it, some people don't. I think like deck building is extremely important right now, and it's going to be in this format. And I love how there are so different builds when it comes to the same deck in the ratios and some of the tech cards. I think it's exciting to see. There's also the Sphere mode. One player played Ash, the other one played D-Shifter. So yeah, different types of Labyrinth stuff. And moving on to another Dexpia deck list, which also made top 8. Actually, they played a going second version. So that's why the list is looking the way it is. And it seems extremely impactful. Like, it's good in the mirror match. It's good against everything else. With the super polymerization, you have 3 Fallen of Albas. You have double Ad Libitum. There's the Frightful package. Evenly in the main deck, the Nibiru, Book of Eclipse. It just seems like a very well thought out build for going second. And in the side deck, again, there's Crossroad Designator. And they said that, in the deck profile, the side deck is a bit weird. You have 2 Lingaribo, for example. If you want to go up against Ibli, you need to have it, but you need to have 2, so they don't rip it. And then the player actually said that when he was siding and they would see him put in the Lingaribo, they would just be like, oh, okay, we're not siding Ibli. It's whatever, we don't need it. He has Lingaribo anyway. So sometimes that's the thing as well, I guess. But other than that, just a Despia build. And moving on to another of the Despia builds, I think this one is very similar to the other second place. I think it's actually the same deck list. Yeah, they both made second place. So it's the same deck list. There's the Gimmick Puppet in the side deck as well. So there's that kind of stuff in the meta, like Scythe and stuff like that used to be. It's just something we're going to have to deal with. Moving forward, then we discussed the Labyrinth build, another Despia build with Eclipse, and evenly in the main deck, there's Allure. We have a Marince's deck list, but actually, I think before I counted 18 flex spots, Contact C even in the main deck. So they really came prepared. Like, Marince's is just one of those decks where if you play enough hand traps and your engine is going through, you're probably winning, because you are literally stopping your opponent to the point where just, they cannot play. They cannot do anything. And the Zealantis Dragon is really cool in this deck as well. Another Despia deck list with a higher Bestial count, which understandable if you play Beast as well, and the Regained and all of that. Like, it works in tandem with the deck. There's just, the fact that the meta is not that great for Bestial. So again, I guess it's just personal preference. And the field spell in the main deck as well, like the Despia deck just seems tight as is, you know, and then you can go over 40, but some of these cards, like the field spell, for example, they kind of seem redundant, maybe. I might be wrong, but it's just the way I think. So yeah, moving on to another Kashtira deck list. There's a ton of enemy controllers seeing play as well. Like this one has it in the main deck. 2 Scareclaw Kashtira actually, and the 3 of the Rice Heart. Also an Ogre. So this is like a huge Kashtira count. And Ibli main deck as well. So Change of Heart is like very useful in the mirror match. So there's that. A bunch of 2-ofs. Even 3-ofs in the extra deck, because you need to be prepared for the Diablosis. Lava Golem in the side. So there's a Sprite Evo Twin build. And I'm so hyped for Sprite to do well. I really want to see Sprite evolve. And overall, the Evo Twin build was never that reliant on Elf. So it's a bit easier right now with Elf banned, because, you know, you're establishing the Evo Twin disruption and you have everything else as well. In the side deck, we see the tasking together with a lot of targets for it. And a lot of space for hand traps in the main deck as well. There's like, let's just say 13 or even more, tech card slots. So I like the build. I like Sprite. I hope for it to do well. In this next format, we have another Kashtira deck list. So this is the first place one. Lance in the main deck again. Other than that, just seems kind of standard. A pointer in the side. Droplet as well, which is interesting. Another brand, the Despia deck list. Super Polymerization in the main. Seems very standard. Some more Bestios in the side deck. A ton of Bestios actually in the main deck. The fusion deployment with Cartesia, which I love this package. In the new Despia deck. Again, more Marincis stuff with the books. All 6 of them, literally, like the only Book of Moon is missing. From the usual lineup in the main deck. So they came prepared. And also we have a couple bubble builds as well. We're gonna quickly go through those. So you have Drychons, right? Which it seems as though they're gonna be able to compete with Bestios falling off in popularity very hard. There's the tasking in the main deck. The Drychon stuff is pretty much standard. There's the Vanities. Magic-y stuff is in the side deck, which is cool. And extra deck also seems very standard for Drychon. Eclipse in the main deck as well. Drychon has always been like including more power spells than hand traps, so that just seems very, very standard. Another first place Kashtira deck list. That's pretty much the same one from before, probably. Another first place deck list. Did all of them play the same deck list? Actually, no. One of them is playing Baron. Okay, so there's that. No Linguribo in this extra deck either. All right, so there's a couple differences, but you can build Kashtira however you want. Another Kashtira deck list. Cross out in the main deck. More Drychon. There's the case tournament, box tournament, when there's all of that. So, again, more Kashtira. Scareclaw stuff. It's interesting, some people say that Scareclaw is like, it's really good. And in theory, it doesn't seem bad. You have adventure stuff, Scareclaw stuff, hand traps. It just seems like Kashtira stuff as well. It seems like it should work. But somehow it also seems as though it's not exactly on the same power level as some of these decks. But it's still really cool to see another deck do well, So Dark World as well, like I'm sure people like to see Dark World do well as well, Bubble. I don't really see it. I don't really like Dark World. And the hand loop is lame. The deck doesn't seem that great. Again, I might be wrong. I'm just not a huge fan of it. So there's that. Lava Golem in the main deck. Kaiju's in the side. Another Linguribo in the side. Ninja, which we love to see. I think Ninja is such a cool deck, and I just love when such a cool strategy, such an interesting strategy does well. So yeah, there's Ninja stuff. It's also extremely, extremely budget. So if you want to get Ninja, I 100% support you. There's also the Adventure Plunder Patrol deck. Hand Trap Adventure Plunder Patrol deck, which again I like to see do well. It's a very interesting deck and very rewarding for the player. And we have another Labyrinth build, which also I think this is the same one as we saw before. So yeah, there's that. All right, so going over a couple regional and local deck lists as well. We're going to go through them a bit faster since we already covered like the main ones. So far, we sort of established that Kashtira branded is probably like the best stuff. And then there's also some sort, so some Sprite here and there. And we covered a couple other decks as well. Naturia, for example. It's most definitely a diverse meta in which deck building is extremely important. So we're going to go over the rest of these deck lists and just try to spot some of the differences. So first we have a Sorzo deck list. Again, seems quite a basic deck list. I like the two Destrudo. Overall, like Destrudo together with Yahtzee is really cool in Sorzo. It was even better before because with Bestios you were able to search it. So there was synergy there, but right now with no Bestios seeing play, that just, it's sad that there's no more synergy there, but still, it's just what happens. We play other tech cards like Contact C, for example, which is seeing a ton of play. And we have a Mathmech deck. So for any Mathmech, enthusiasts out there, there's a build for you if you wanna take inspiration. So you're able to get to your hand traps as well as your engine. Again, Contact C, another Labyrinth build, which this one is, again, one of those floodgate builds. And then we have a couple other regional. So again, a Dark World build, Allure, a couple dangers, not as many as in the last one, I think. Moving on, another Storzo build, Droll in the main deck. We have a Kashtira build as well, another Labyrinth one, Rivalry in the main deck, one of the field spell. This one plays a different lineup of monsters that they play the other ones as well, like the furniture ones. So this is interesting because some builds started to cut them. And there's also, is there like the barrel in the side deck? That's wild. So then we have the Kashtira build again. This is the Las Vegas regional Kashtira build. Also Raigeki as a tasking target in the side deck. Alright, so this one, it's Tear Lament together with Kashtira in today's meta. So someone really had the courage to play that deck, which seems so weird, and people really kind of dropped it and moved down to Kashtira. But I like it. I think it's really cool. I think it's very brave to still try and do well with Tear Laments, with everything banned and limited and just tossed to the side. It's really cool to see. So they played the King of the Swamp, and there's Winda in the extra deck. There's the Dark World Fusion. I like it, and then there's the Despia build. Seems quite standard for a Despia build. Another Kashtira one. We have Black Wings. So in a diverse meta, a lot of decks are going to see play. Like, a lot of decks. Like Black Wing stuff even. And I think that's insanely cool. It's a deck that not many people really know what it does. And that's a great thing about it. On top of it being quite cool, overall. And when the combos go off, when you just go through uninterrupted, it's very hard to stop. Naturia Runic, there's Nibiru Ash, 1 talents. Kashtira together with Tear Laments again. Even Crystal Beast, another Kashtira one. Abyss Actor. It is the 10th place at a WCQ, but I don't really know a lot of, things about Abyss Actors. So if you guys do, please let me know down in the comments, but I can't really comment on this deck. Seems interesting though. Bestios, Skill Drain, so Floodgates, and Droll. Cool. Dragons also seems like a decent build. There's no black metal dragon though, as far as I can see. And quite a high Bestio count. Only 2 Saronir. It's an interesting build. Very cool seeing dragons do well. Sprite. That's just pretty much standard with the Nimble stuff. Toad. Is there the Akashima? Yeah, there's the Akashima. The Akashima link is like, it's interesting. Seems like it's a bit too much work to go for a 1-negate Toad without Elf. If you go for Double Cross, sure, but like, Sprite is still a deck that really needs to be explored and worked on, I think. Another Sprite build. This one is with the Cyber stuff, which I really like. No Signet mining though, just the Cyber's gadget. A Kashtira build. Another Despia. Another Sword Soul. Like at this point, I'm just gonna go through the builds. So if you want, you can pause them and just take the list if you like it. We have an Exorcister list, which, that's really interesting. It just seems you know, kind of out of nowhere, Exorcister is not exactly a deck a lot of us thought that we should pay attention to right now. But I guess, you know, congrats to the player that did well, managed to get 4th place at the regionals. Another Sprite build. Another Labyrinth one. We have an Decklists one as well. And I think that's pretty much it when it comes to the regionals. So again, Decklists, like very similarly to Marincess, one of those decks that just plays a bunch of hand traps. And then it's able to do the 1-card combo and go from there. And then we also have a couple local tournament deck lists. We have Punks. Together with, I think that's the Gold Pride cards. So they work in tandem, of course, like you're lowering your life points anyway with Punks. So they work together and make all of these synchros. And, you know, it just seems like an interesting deck. I didn't really look into it that much. But yeah, then we have another dragon build. Again, no black Mellow Dragon. There's the Bestios. And then we have a Springans deck together with Sprite. The Tally-Ho Springans is amazing support for the deck, so it's understandable that people are trying it out. Also very, very budget friendly if you're not investing in Sprite stuff, but you can still play Springans sort of pure in a way. So we have the Trap Tricks deck, which there was a lot of talk about this deck because it managed to get 1st place, going undefeated at a local tournament. So looking at the deck list, there's a lot of Chap Hole cards. There's even Bottomless, which is really cool, and Ash, we have Evenly, the Gravediggers, Chap Hole, there's some Kaijus in the side deck. You know, just, it's amazing seeing some of these decks, like just decks that weren't really expected to do well. So it's really cool. And then Springans together with Theory and stuff, which also they work in tandem perfectly. Even more Drytrons. So this one does not play the magic-y stuff as far as I can see. And there's no lock either. However, this next one does play the Magician of Black Chaos Max lock. Together with the Dynamondo. There's Tri-Brigade as well. So it's not Bird Up, you know, it's just regular Tri-Brigade with hand traps, cross out, generator even, Rika. Like, when I decided to do this video, I had no idea so many of different decks are going to do well. Again, for someone that really thrives in a diverse meta, I think that's great. It's amazing. It's also quite accessible for a lot of these decks, for you to get them and actually do well with them. There's more Gold Pride Punk stuff, and rounding things off with another Plunder Patrol build. So hopefully this video gave you a bit of an idea as to all of the different things you can play. Going over everything once more, I guess what to point out would be that some of the most important cards right now are most definitely Ash, Book of Eclipse, Evenly seeing a ton of play, Nibiru as well, Contact Z is another hand trap, and if you're playing Kashtira, you can also go for you know, cards like Book of Moon, Forbidden Lands, like stuff that really helps you get your stuff going. Then Despia can be played going second very well. Then Despia can be played going first or second. There's the Ibli lock in Kashtira if you want, in other decks as well, like Sprite, for example. Speaking of Sprite, different types of engines can be paired together with it, like Nimble stuff, like Evo Twin stuff. And of course, there's a ton of decks that were considered rogue before, or even worse, that are going to be able to do well right now, like Rika, like Plunder Patrol, even Trap Tricks, Punk. We saw a lot of other decks, and you know, again, it's nice to see for someone that really enjoys a diverse meta. So I want to hear you guys' thoughts. If you're one of those people, if you're playing a very interesting rogue deck right now, or if you're just playing Kashtira, whatever it may be, let me know down in the comments if you want. Make sure to check out the page, and make sure to check out the Dragon Shield products through my affiliate link. And of course, like the video if you guys liked it, sub, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.